When you hear the word audit, you probably picture a huge team descending on some giant corporation. But what about the audits for small and medium-sized businesses? Well, the international standards have a special category for them called less complex entities, or LCEs. And the approach to quality is really specific. Today, we're going to break down exactly what that means and why it puts so much focus on one single person. Let's get into it.
Okay, so at the very center of all of this is a concept called engagement quality management. Now, this is not just some fancy jargon for a to-do list. Think of it more like the entire operating system for the audit. It's the whole framework of policies and actions that make sure the job gets done right, follows the rules, and produces a final report that you can actually trust.
And to make this idea really stick, the standard gives us this fantastic metaphor. The lead auditor, who we call the engagement partner, is the captain of the ship. They are the one person with ultimate, sole responsibility for the entire voyage, from charting the course all the way to arriving safely at the destination, which is, of course, the auditor's report. So, here's our plan for today. First, we're going to look at the mission itself, the quality mandate. Then we'll see how the partner takes command. After that, we'll talk about leading the audit crew and steering through tricky ethical waters. And to wrap it all up, we'll look at that crucial final review before the journey's end.
All right, first up, the quality mandate. Before any ship sets sail, the captain has to know the destination. And in an audit, that destination is defined by one very clear overarching goal.
And this mission is really a two-parter. First, you've got the process. The audit has to follow all the professional standards and all the legal requirements. But then you have the outcome. The final report has to actually be the right one for the situation. And you absolutely cannot have one without the other. A perfect process that leads to the wrong conclusion, that's not quality, and neither is getting the right conclusion by cutting corners. So, with that mission set, we get to the absolute core principle for these smaller, less complex audits. This is where the standard really zeroes in, on the specific, undeniable responsibilities of the engagement partner. There's one person at the helm. And you got to notice that word overall. This isn't a shared thing. It's not a decision by committee. The standard makes it crystal clear. The buck stops with the engagement partner. They're the single point of accountability for the quality of that entire audit. Period.
But what does overall responsibility really look like in practice? Well, it means the partner can't just hand off tasks and check in at the very end. No way. They have to be sufficiently and appropriately involved the entire time. They need to be in the loop to understand the tough calls, the major judgments, and the thinking behind the team's conclusions. It's all about active, hands-on leadership.
And this is where you see company culture in action. The firm can have a 100-page quality manual, but it's the partner who brings it to life. Through their decisions, their questions, and how they communicate, they set the entire tone for the audit team. They basically become the living, breathing version of the firm's commitment to quality.
Okay, so the captain is in command, but on most voyages, they don't sail the ship all by themselves. So how exactly do they lead their audit crew to make sure that high standard of quality is met? Well, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. The partner has to tailor their level of involvement based on what's going on. Are they working with a team of seasoned veterans on a pretty straightforward audit? They might be a bit more hands-off. But is it a newer team tackling a really high-risk area? You can bet that partner is going to be way more involved, providing more detailed direction and review. It's all about being responsive. And their leadership really comes down to these three key actions. First, there's direction, making sure everyone on the team knows what their job is and what the goal is. Then there's supervision, being there to guide the work and keep it on course while it's happening. And finally, there's review, taking a close look at the work that's been done and the conclusions the team has reached to make sure it all adds up. Now, leading the crew is one thing, but any good captain will tell you that some of the biggest dangers are the ones you can't see, like hidden reefs under the water. In the audit world, those are the ethical challenges. So when a potential ethical issue pops up, the standard gives the partner a very clear two-step protocol. First, you hit the rulebook. Evaluate the threat using the firm's own established policies. Second, and this is so important, you don't try to figure it out alone. You consult with others to find the right path forward. It's a structured process designed to keep things objective. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating, especially for auditors of smaller businesses. A lot of these audits are actually done by a sole practitioner, meaning the partner is the entire team. So the standard asks a great question. How do you form an objective view when you're the only person who's looked at the work?
And this is the brilliant solution the standard provides. It saw this problem coming. See, while a partner in a big firm would just consult with someone else internally, the standard gives the sole practitioner a crucial lifeline: consult outside the firm. That might mean calling up another experienced auditor or even getting advice from a professional accounting body. It's a key feature that ensures even a one-person audit can maintain objectivity.
All right, the crew has been led, the ethical storms have been navigated, and the ship is pulling into the harbor. It's time for those final checks to make sure the voyage was a success before that final report goes out the door.
This is a critical stop gate. It's non-negotiable. If there are any disagreements within the team, or maybe between the team and an outside consultant, they cannot be swept under the rug. The standard demands that all those differences of opinion are fully sorted out before the partner puts their signature on that audit report. The ship has to present a single, unified conclusion.
And speaking of consultation, the standard even highlights some specific red flags, moments where getting that second opinion is especially critical. If the audit bumps into complex or unfamiliar territory, significant risks, or really weird transactions, that's a signal to consult. Same goes if management is putting up roadblocks or if there's a whiff of non-compliance with the law. These are the moments when a smart captain knows to ask for directions.
And in the end, it all comes down to this. The proof is in the paperwork. The partner has to do one final tough review of the audit documentation, the ship's logbook, if you will. They need to be totally satisfied that the evidence in those files fully supports every major judgment and the overall conclusion. This is the last line of defense for quality.
Which brings us to a final thought to chew on. This whole framework puts an incredible amount of trust and responsibility on the shoulders of one person, the captain. So for the audit of a small business, is this sharp focus on a single point of accountability its greatest strength, giving it clarity and purpose? Or is relying so heavily on just one individual's judgment a potential weakness? That's a great question to think about.